Hi guys, congratulations on premiering. If you'd just like to introduce yourselves. Yep.
Hi, I'm Raul Garcia. I'm co-director of The Violinist.
Hi, I'm Ervin and the co-writer and co-director of the Violence.
Okay. Congratulations on having a film at Annecy. What does this moment personally mean to both of you at this time?
I could say it's an end of a journey, or at least end of the creative part of the journey. Obviously, once we finish with the Annecy Film Festival, it's been the premiere, the world premiere of the movie that basically marked the end of the process of production. And now we have to go for the second battle that is like having the world know that there's a little movie called The Violinist that need to be seen.
Yeah, for me, it's been a very long road. The beginning of this idea really began more than 10 years ago, right? And the last 4 years was very immersed in the production. So yes, it is the end of a journey, but the beginning of another one. Now we have to do what we can to make sure the film is seen, hopefully by a lot of people everywhere. And Annecy, it is the perfect place to start this journey. It is the festival for animation, and we look forward to many more people, for hopefully having a chance to watch the film uh, from here onwards.
Okay. Did you ever imagine that this film will become Singapore's first animated Spanish co-production selected for the Annecy's official competition? Yeah.
Not in our wildest dream. I mean, the film really started with a very little independent project, and suddenly it grew up to international ways. So suddenly from being just a Singapore created project to be a co-production with Spain, mostly because being from Spain, it was the natural partnership to be able to get the co-production. And then Italy came on board, and then another partners came on board from Colombia, from Japan, from Taiwan. So the whole thing ballooned, incredible. And at the end, it was almost like a super production. It was like the 5 different countries, hundreds of artists. It was incredible, an incredible experience.
Then,
What's the question? Sorry.
would you ever imagine that this film will become Singapore's first animated feature selected for Annecy's official competition?
No, we could only hope, right? You know, as you know, Singapore, we don't have an animated film industry. So how could this dream even be true, right? This is the first animated film from Singapore, in more than 15 years. I'm very happy to follow in Eric Khoo's footsteps, but it took 15 years for us to make one film. And it still feels like a miracle to me, frankly. Every film probably is a miracle, but I really understand what that means now when other filmmakers tell me that. So yeah, but at the end of the day, fills me with a lot of pride, especially when most of the team in Singapore, right? This is their first feature film. They have grown as artists, as human beings, right? They have matured, and I think that's really one of the most gratifying thing about all of this and the whole process, to see these artists really become better people and take ownership of the film. So it belongs to all of them.
Okay.
And I will add an extra credit for Ervin, because this has proven that it can be done. So for me, I'm so proud that little studio called Robot Playground suddenly grew up to the challenge, and it came out gloriously with an incredible team of artists putting their life into the movie.
Wonderful, wonderful. So, getting back to the story, uh, why did you choose music and the violin in particular as the emotional heart of the film?
As you may or may not know, This is loosely based on our 2015 short film, which is called The Violin. You know, obviously, it doesn't make sense to change this instrument right now, because the violinist is really inspired by the short film that generated a lot of very interesting and encouraging response, particularly from Singapore viewers, but also outside of Singapore,
Okay.
in how historical memory, and time, and the whole kind of cycle of life, really impacts all of us at a very emotional level, right? And so I never once thought about another instrument.
Okay, but in terms of the short film, why did you choose the violin for the short film as well?
Well, there was a line in our film, which is when the character says violin is the closest sound to human voice, and that was actually said to me by a a very accomplished violin player and teacher, that I interviewed. She happens to teach many child violin proteges, and I wanted to understand the psyche of someone very young with exceptional talent, just like our character in the film. And this line actually came from her. This is why she loves the violin, and I just thought that was a beautiful line, and I really felt like already the beginning of telling a story. So it really started from there. Yeah.
Look, from the point of view of the aesthetics of the movie, there's certain elegance on people playing violin. And at the same time, remember, part of the story is our young musician playing around in Fray Clark and other places. So obviously, a violin is the perfect instrument to go around and busker somehow.
Okay, wonderful. So, in terms of working together, what was that like as co-directors? How did you divide up the responsibilities in terms of like deciding that you're going to make this movie as co-directors?
But when I approached Raul, the intention was to invite him to come aboard as an animation director, because we felt this is our first film. Our team is very young, inexperienced. We really needed someone much more experienced. They don't come more experienced than Mr. Garcia here. But as conversation starts to develop, right, as we start to discuss and explore actual production and financing models to make this a reality, a Spanish co-production became a real option. And that was because of Raul's, obviously he's Spanish, his connections, and I was more than happy to have him take on co-directing duties. You know, uh, it's my first film. I'm a late bloomer, right? Maybe it's my last one. I don't know. But to have him on my side, providing that very assured hand, and to calm me down, when things start to get crazy, right? What was invaluable. In terms of the duties, we spend most of the time discussing more actively on the story,
Yeah.
the structure, pre-production, right? That took a long time, from script to storyboards, a year, close to 2 years. But once production began, he took on more role as well as animation director, approving all the routes from various teams from around the world, working with our in-house animation supervisor, and continuing to provide very valuable counsel and guidance at a overall directing level. So it's been a wonderful experience. If this is how co-directing, like, I want to do it every time, yeah.
No, it was a very natural thing, and actually, I was the first surprised that we got along so well. Because I think we both love animation. We fall in love with this story that Ervin wrote, and in the hard part was all the pre-production, storyboarding, preparing the story, finding the weakest points in the story and strengthen them and all that. But once we set up the animatic and everything was ready, I mean, we had minor arguments about basically pencil millage, like how many lines the boots of the soldiers, Japanese soldiers, should have, or little things of every one of us brought our own obsessions, Ervin is an incredible historical accurate kind of person. So he wanted like the China, the glasses, every element in the movie will be exactly how this should be according to the period of the time. No, I was a stickler as well for the music, and in this we both agree that the violin player had to be absolutely genuine and real. So it will be believable that when the characters play violin, the fingering is right, the position of the arms is right, no, and all that basically add detail and add this degree of believability to the story that transcend the being an animated film. I mean, we feel that what we have done here is a film that happened to be animated, not an animated film.
And what did each of you bring to that the other couldn't, in terms of like the partnership there, the co-direction?
No, but that no one could.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
I think we were complementary.
Very
I was really obsessed on the performing and be sure that the characters were alive, real persons. And I thought they were really interesting because again, we're playing with a style of animation that is more like veering into anime or that kind of articulation of movement. So we try to be as expressive as we could, and we try to really center on the story, the personality, and how the character will react.
Robert?
Well, obviously, it's a story I've lived with for quite some time, many years, and as well as the script. So I put a lot of pressure on myself to make sure the story is right, the structure, and it wasn't always convincing to everyone, right? Uh, uh, but I think Raul provided very invaluable advice and feedback. And I think I'm grateful for him because sometimes when we disagree, he lets me win, right? I think maybe he understands this story is sort of a Singapore story that I am trying to tell. So and with that comes the certainly what I and my team is able to bring is to make sure this is a love letter to a nation at the end of the day, right? And we had to bring a level of care, and attention to details because we are portraying as something that is historical that existed, even though it's in animation. Nothing was created out of the imagination. Everything had to be heavily researched. So and we have to make sure all these elements are properly done. Uh, Also to make as a respect to our collaborators, right? So I think in that regard, the team, really took on heavy responsibility. This is a film that could only be led by a Singapore studio because it is about a Singapore story, right?
Yeah.
Mm.
Okay. And at the end of the day, we were telling a story about humans. We were telling a story, a love story uh, that happened in a specific moment in history. And from that point of view, we didn't want that the history take over the human element of the story, but we need to put there enough historical elements so people will understand the reality of war and what meant for also that shit.
And in terms of the research that you had to do in terms of the authenticity of it,
Mm.
were there moments when the research history surprised you during development? Anything that you discovered during the research?
Well, I read about 8 books over the course of 3 years, and some of them were very boring. I shall not name the books, but they're historical books. So in the end, it came down to it's. I mean, what surprised me the most, honestly, is and what we strive to achieve is how to. I mean, I say this quite often to people that when I was in school, high school at least, I was terrible at history. I failed almost every year in history. I don't know why. Maybe I wasn't a very bad student. Um, but using stories, using engaging characters, to tell historical narratives is something that surprised me was how he has the potential to really engage and to evoke and to encourage interest in learning more about where we come from, who we are, right? I see that in my artists as well. Many of them really have, their sense of Singapore history is quite fragmented, right? But as they dive into the film production, I was quite clear to ensure that every scene you are working on, every background you draw, every layout you design, you need to know what is happening, why is this happening, right? And it didn't always start off like this, but when they went to read up, come back, there is a different kind of level of respect and attention to the details, right? And it comes back to the idea of growth, so the power of storytelling, right? To say something about who we are, and I'm just very, very proud that we can do this with a story about Singapore. I've never really seen before in animation, right? So yeah, I don't know if that answers your question a bit indirectly, but that is what surprised me. I mean, nothing about history is surprising. You read it and then okay, but it's the journey and what that sort of uncovers about our makeup as artists, as learners, and as citizens also.
Okay. You want to add anything to that, Raul?
Well, I mean, talking about this historical background, no, I thought it was really interesting. I mean, my interest for Singapore came when I went there to teach in La Salle College of the Arts. And I really fell in love with the culture, with the variety, the diversity of the city, the vibrancy of the culture. So I started being interested by the history of the place, no? And when we started working in this movie, I realized that my knowledge of what happened in the Pacific Theater during the Second World War was really tainted by the European vision of it, and most likely by the American version of what happened. So basically, it was reduced to Pearl Harbor and Hiroshima, and that's it. So the movie allowed me to actually dig in and study and find out more about what happened in South Asia during that period of time. And I thought that was really interesting because I guess I brought to the movie this kind of like historical balance where we could get all this historical background in a way that the people who doesn't know what happened then, they will have like a hint of things that happen. And somehow we kind of entice the audience to find out more when the war is over, and we have all this movement of independence from the Western colonialism. There's little vignettes, little brush strokes uh, for the people who wanted to know more, because the history is important in the movie, but we're not doing a historical film. We're doing a human film that happened against that background.
Okay. And let's talk about the music now. The Violinist just won an award at Annecy for Best Music Score for a feature. So, how closely did you work with the composer Ricky Ho and Isabella during the production side?
Yeah, Ricky came on board much earlier, of course. I knew him through one of his agents that I met in Tokyo, at the Tokyo International Film Festival. And I knew of Ricky, right? But not very well. He's not based in Singapore. He's been in Taiwan for a number of years now. So he's also somewhat already detached from the Singapore film composing sort of circle. But when I had a chat with him, I sensed that he really would like to work on a Singapore film. It's been a long, long time, right? And then we started going into the story. It's interestingly, he was at a stage where he was actually leaving classical music composition behind and going more into more sort of electronic or alternative kind of film composition. But this film, he had to go back to his very basics, which is classical scoring. And he saw that as a challenge. And the scope of the film is also uh, quite daunting when I told him that, music is a living character in the film. And at first he didn't know what that meant really, right? But as he read the script, I think he started to have an understanding. It is both a language, a character, and an emotional a vessel, in a film. So he started the writing, and Isabel Latorre came on later as part of a Spanish co-production team. And we didn't really interact with Isabel that much because she was really working directly with Ricky, and making sure that, the tone that Ricky sees for the film, because essentially he's the musical director, and Isabel can bring her own influences into some of the scenes. Overall, I think it was a wonderful collaboration. I think they both enjoyed it. The music was recorded in Singapore, Spain, Slovakia, and the main orchestra in Taipei.
Yeah.
Right. So it's a massive. Took about over a year for the musical score to be completed. I think that is unusual, but I think they are both of them richly deserve that. This award they won.
No, the challenge was that really the music is like the other character in the movie. The play of the music is not just the musical glue, but it's another character. And the main challenge was that we have there the Sunset Sonata that had to be composed, and that's an important element musically speaking. No? And at the same time, that again we interwoven the theme for Faye, the theme for Kay, and we wanted to be a coherent piece of music who will evolve as the character evolves. So at the beginning, that little notes of Sunset Sonata are more like innocent and naive. As the story progresses, they get in darker and darker, and then it's a full-blown symphony. And at the same time, we wanted to keep that musical line, and that's why Isabel La Torre came on board, because then she will provide all the nightmarish war music and all the conflict and all the tension in the music. So that way we have two different musical landscapes that will be integrated in one big score. And then Isabel collaborated with Ricky, and they were really working together. So all the music belonged to the same kind of like material.
Okay. And was there any particular music sequence that was especially difficult to get right emotionally? Or the whole film was just an emotional musical?
Of course, the central Sunset Sonata, that is the piece that Ricky probably felt the most pressure on. He did several drafts, several demos, many were discarded. In fact, there were a lot of music, like, I don't know, Raul know that was not used. That still sound very good.
Yeah, no, I mean,
Maybe we can use it for that.
yeah.
Sequel.
No, at the beginning, trying to find the right tone of the Sunset Sonata, because it had to be romantic, but it had to be from that period, And I remember Ricky composed what 3 or 4 demos there was, until he got it right. But once he found it, that was perfect.
And it had to begin as a duet. So it's a 2 violin sonata,
Yeah.
right? One representing each character, and as the story evolves, and as their lives are torn apart, the music splits, Um, Eventually the music itself evolves and grows until it, reemerges as a concerto in the finale. So that whole thing had to be planned very carefully. I mean, I don't even know how Ricky does it. That's why he does what he does. I honestly, it's a mystery to me.
Yeah.
But we all know how music makes us feel, even though if we may not know how it really works. It is the one true universal language, and I think this is the film that allows it to show.
And the fact that we have seen the movie 20 billion times, and every time it still get us, even we have to do the sound mixing and do the dubbing in Spanish, the dubbing in Valencian, the dubbing in English, no. And every time we will see the whole movie, you know, there's something in your heart that breaks, you know. And for us, that we're supposed to be, you know, completely not affected by this because we see the movie several times, several hundred times. Uh, the fact that every time we see the movie, still we get affected by the emotional core, I think it means something.
Okay. And let's talk a little bit about Singapore animation, especially with the selection at Annecy. What do you think this selection for Annecy means for the Singapore animation industry?
I know it's very strange for me to try to answer a question like this. I don't know. Maybe it does nothing. Maybe it does something. But what I hope can happen is, and I've seen this in other countries in Asia. I mean, I can maybe point to the success of Another World, right, from Hong Kong. There was an Annecy this year. The director, Tommy, is a friend. And the success of that film in Hong Kong, right, lifted the industry. And Hong Kong is witnessing a new wave of interest in animation. Even at the booth here at Annecy, you can feel the vibrancy. And if that's what one good film can create, this interest and this desire to push further. Now that someone has kind of opened the door, then I think that'll be great. I would love it if that can happen for Singapore. I don't think we didn't set out to be to open doors or to be pathfinders or anything. We just want to make a good film, right? But I hope if there is some level of success, that can encourage more local filmmakers, creators, studios, even from a live action space to work with the animation community and really use this art form to tell more stories because it really is an amazing art form. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what sort of conversations have you had after the screenings of Violinist at Annecy? Have there been any interesting comments from the audience? What have been saying?
Yeah. Well, I mean, we've been stopped, non-stop. I mean, it's been surreal. From the day where we start Monday when there was the world premiere. Again, we have seen the movie, but not in such a big screen, not with such a devoted audience, and the answer was overwhelming. I mean, we really got really emotional because from the moment the movie finished till the moment the credits finished, there was a standing ovation. We felt like overwhelmed by the answer of the people. I mean, in one point, the security had to escort us out because people didn't leave the theater. It's been overwhelming, very very humbling experience. And all the week through Annecy, we have a lot of people who stop us in the street saying how the movie touched them, how they cry. That's really funny. Suddenly, a lot of people come to us and grown-up people confess in public that they cry with the movie, and that's really touching because that means that probably we did something right.
Yeah, the premiere night at the Bonlieu here, I consider the grandest stage in world animation. It was such a privilege to be there with Raul and the team. And the reception after that was quite astounding. I've never experienced anything like that. I mean, I come from TV series. People don't clap after they see our work, and so this is something very new,
Yeah.
where people actually recognizing. First thing I did was I was just looking for my team, but they are lost in the sea of people.
Yeah.
They told me later they kept waving because they could see I was trying to find. And this is the best festival, best audience in the world, right? And like you said, many people came up to the streets. The most the reaction we get the most is, yeah, it's a tearjerker. Apparently, people did cry, but I've heard that from also many of the films here, from like In Waves, La Crochette, Iron Boy, Winnipeg, very emotional stories. A lot of people cried this Annecy. Maybe that was the intent for on the programming team, but we are happy to be part of that. And if the violinist brought some of this joy
Yeah.
or grief in a good way, to audiences, then yeah.
No,
And
but it's curious because the word really spread fast. So a lot of people at the same time there was people coming and say that they cried in the movie. There was a lot of people coming. I haven't seen your film, but I heard it's great. I need to see it. No, and there's certain rituals here in Annecy, and one of them is like the day after the movie is screened, you sign posters and you sign mementos for the people. No, and the signing was like at 10, but when we arrived around 9, there was already a line of people waiting for us to get the autograph. So again, it's such a wonderful experience, but it's a very humbling one as well. It really touches deeply because again, here in Annecy, when people don't like a film, they're really vocal about it. They really scream and go crazy. But when they love a film, the answer is 3 times over. I mean, it's like completely wild and incredible. No?
Okay, thank you so much. Now we'll just, if we have time, we just do a quick fire. One word to describe the violinist.
emotional.
Love story, melodrama.
Favorite scene in the film.
Well, I'm going to spoil the film, man. I'm going to spoil the film, right?
Okay, then we don't answer that one. A film that inspired you growing up. It's more general.
Growing up,
Yeah, growing up.
I'm curious, what Raul's
Yeah,
answer
yeah.
would be.
Many of them. I mean, from 2001, A Space Odyssey to Fantasia to Pinocchio to Yellow Submarine. I have thousands of films that meant something for me.
What's the earliest memory you have of watching a movie?
The early memory, according to my parents, I went to see the movie Trapeze with Tony Curtis, but that one is my first movie ever, but I don't remember. The movie that I really remember is Pinocchio, and I came out of the movie crying like a baby, like the baby I was.
That's a really dark movie
Yeah.
for a child.
Yeah.
And Ervin, yourself?
My first movie I remember watching, and I think I'm right, is Snow White and Seven Dwarfs. Obviously a re-release, and I saw it at the Capitol with my mother, right? And probably in color, that time, yeah. The following that, the one that really affected me was an American Tale. Yeah. I grew up like many kids in the 80s watching cartoons, but and a lot of Disney specials, right? So I grew up with that kind of a love for animation. But what changed me, made me sort of think about animation differently, and maybe even as something I want to do, is this film, which is Princess Mononoke,
Oh yeah.
right?
Oh, let's see that.
Yeah, and
There we go.
some people think I'm from Special Forces, but no, this is a Princess Dagger.
Yeah,
Yeah,
amazing.
yeah.
No,
Okay.
it's funny. It's funny because in Spain, we grew up watching all these Japanese TV series, Heidi and Marco, and that we didn't know there was from Miyazaki. So when we saw Totoro, uh, that was like another movie that changed our way to see animation and affect us quite a lot because suddenly in one way they were like, wow, this look like the shows of TV that we used to see, but it is like, no, it's just totally different. And this is, you can make a movie about feelings and about a simple story with no bad guy in it. No, and Totoro was another movie that really changed our perception of animation, and of course Akira.
Incredible. Okay, so the closing question is, okay, this is one that's long. If somebody walks into the cinema knowing nothing about the violinist, what do you hope that they are thinking and feeling when the credits roll?
uh, well,
What's the takeaway for the audience at the end? What do you feel?
the takeaway I think is the music is part of our lives, and it's something that helps overcome adversity, overcome war. Art is life, and against war, art is a solution and is something that binds people together. After all, we all humans and we all like to feel.
Ervin, final closing words.
Like quite often the reaction I get, and this includes a couple of test screenings we've done in Singapore. People going in without any, well, we go into a movie with preconceptions. That's just the truth. But I see it when people come out. They come out to me. They are very often they were very surprised in a very good way. It wasn't what they expected, what they saw. They did not expect to feel like this or to be that emotional, right? And I think, what I truly hope is, even though it's a story set against the backdrop of, certain part of the world in Singapore and Malaya, um, you know, there is some universal truths that the story does touch on that can cross borders and cultures and generations, right? Because it is about historical memory, and we all have our memories and our uh, um, how we look at the world, you know, and so at the end of the day, it's about art inspiring life. I think that really is the gist of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much. Congratulations on the film again, and wishing you all the best tonight for the closing ceremony.
Thank you.
And
And it's coming to Singapore soon.
okay,
This year.
and we'll probably cover what happens in Singapore at the premiere as well. Thank you so much, and you want to wave goodbye to everyone?
Bye. Thank you.
The crystal for a feature film goes to the violinist.